What's going on, everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know who it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. What's up, rocks or rock and metal thrive. Wishing you all a very happy Tuesday. It is March 16th of 2021. If this was 2020, I'd be like, oh boy. But no, it's 2021. We got other stuff we got to worry about right now. But what you have to worry about is my next guest. Due to the fact that, yes, you're going to want to listen to this next guest because when they got sent over to me from Adam Splitter and they're like, yeah, check this one out. I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. Yes, this sounds like fun. Let's have him on the podcast. And I got to talk to the bassist from the band The Dead Deads. It is a power trio of women. And I got to talk to the bassist, Daisy. And we have a whole bunch of fun deep diving their song In For Blood. They do have a new record coming out, hopefully sometime in 2021 that you're going to want to listen to. But we just have a great time on this podcast as well. It's just a full fun barrage of, honestly, whatever the heck you could think of. We talk about so much on this one. And you really get to know how good the Dead Deads are. So are you ready? Because I am. Enough with the intro. Let's go. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast, yet another very special episode for you. And yes, I always say they're very special episodes because I have so much fun doing these. Every time I get to talk to a band or a guest is absolutely special. And today is, again, one of those times. If you're out watching this on YouTube right now, you can see that my guest has X's across her eyes right now. I was going to do something with eyeliner to make me look like, 2004 Billy Joe Armstrong, walking a lonely road. However, I just want my classic look that people say I look like great value Fred Durst. Well, we're here for the guest right now, so please welcome from the band The Dead Deads, please welcome Daisy. So Daisy, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on as well. And I absolutely love the fact that you went with the X's over the eyes as well. That really fit in well. Of course, if everyone watches the video for In For Blood, yes, you will see all three members of the Dead Deads have the X's over their eyes. So It makes total sense.
Yeah, we always do X's. That's part of our shtick.
It's for like every time you guys play live in every video, you always have the X's over the eyes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, that's actually that's the reason why we're called the Dead Deads. Because we started out just messing around, and we were a Dead Milkmen cover band, the Dead Milk Maids. And to be dead, we threw X's on our faces, and we liked that, and so we wanted to keep being dead with the X's and Dead Deads.
Well, it's definitely something that'll give you the, just like that unique touch that's always going to make you stand out, because it's like, okay, what is this band going to have that, we're going to remember throughout everything that we do? And X's over the eyes every single time. Boom. That's like your calling card right there. Yeah.
And our fans, they're called the Dead Core. And they're welcome. They come with X's too. Actually, there's a few that are way more creative and have done way more elaborate and amazing X's than any of us have ever done. But yeah, it's part of the fun.
I'll say now you're kind of like getting me all ready to go to live shows when they return, when the Dead Deads go back on tour. If I get a chance, if you guys come by where I am or if I'm out by where you are, all of a sudden you're going to see, I would end up going all out, incredibly just large elaborate X's over my eyes. Probably by the end of the show, I'll probably end up passed out on the floor or something. I'm usually one of the guys that just goes into a mosh pit, goes crazy. So If I'm dead on the floor in the mosh pit and I have these giant red X's over my eyes, just know I had a great time.
I will know that. And yeah, you're more than welcome. If you think that's crazy or weird, it's not at all. That's that. What you just described is our rock shows. That's a normal night when we play.
Alrighty. So for everyone listening, especially government, if you're listening, let's get this pandemic under control so we can go back to going to live shows, playing live shows. And I can, actually have red X's over my eyes, look like I'm just completely just passed out, maybe dead by watching the Dead Deads. And, everything comes full circle at that point. So that'd be awesome. I'm down for that.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, toes crossed.
It's coming. It's happening. But I hope that then it also merges with your schedule and our schedule and everything too.
Well, I'll put it this way, with the amount of live shows that I was usually go and see ever since I started this, because I think in 2019, it was I saw probably about 70 or 80 bands live over the course of the year. And 2020, I was like, I'm expecting to have a lot more. And it was going that way. And all of a sudden March hit. It was just nope.
Yeah. Yeah. That was crazy. And then at first, everybody was rescheduling for like October. And
Yeah.
nope.
I still have a bunch of different ticket stubs from that time as well, just as like the weird memories of what could have been. And there's some shows where I still have not gotten any refunds for because they are postponed,
Yeah.
but they've never been rescheduled, so they're just postponed. So it's like, who knows what's happening? There's been some that have been canceled that I have got money back. There was one that got canceled that I didn't get my money back. I honestly don't mind because the venue that was keeping the money is my favorite venue, and I want to make sure they stay alive. So I'm like, you know what? You guys keep it. I'm
Keep
good
it
with
for
that
now.
one.
Yeah. Let you in for free some other time.
They have let me in for free in a couple of shows. And
Okay.
and the craziest one I think they ever let me in for free was when I went to go see Guar.
Oh, nice. I never saw them. I never saw them. I'm bummed about that.
I'll say when live shows return, if you get a chance, couple of things. One, just with the style of show they put on, especially with the whole Dead Dads X over the Ice thing and the way you guys you describe your shows, I think you will absolutely enjoy it. Also, the other tip is, but because no one told me this, but definitely do this, wear like a white t-shirt that you do not care that gets ruined, because they're going to spray you with all sorts of like red colored water that's supposed to be blood, green colored water supposed to be bile. You're going to be doused head to toe in this stuff. So,
and that's your memento.
my memento, because I think I was actually wearing this shirt, but I mean it's a black shirt,
right.
so it doesn't necessarily work out. But I've got a picture that I took from it, and it literally looks like I was in a horror movie because my face just looks like it's just full of blood.
Yeah. Yeah. I really hope to get to see them.
If you get a chance, make sure it happens. But before we really jump into everything, I always like to do this intro to really let people get to know who you are by asking you 3 questions. The first 2, very, very, very easy. The last one is, of course, my favorite because it kind of puts you on the spot in a fun way. So the questions are: 1, what is your name? 2, in the Dead Dads, what do you do? And the third is, I want to know either a little fun fact about yourself or a fun story about yourself, but I always want it to be the wackiest, craziest thing you can think of. I've had people tell me all these different crazy stories about, burying or chloroforming their band members and then burying them in the sand up to their waist, making it look like their legs got chopped off because it was funny. Famous Instagram pets and dogs and Twitter cats and dogs. So I've heard a lot of different weird things, and if you can make me laugh, I'm always down for that. So I'll let you go for it.
Okay. Well, I'm Daisy Dead. With the Dead Dads, I play bass and do some backup harmonies. And a strange thing about me that actually just happened today, I received in the mail my first installment of a random trade journal magazine. Prior examples were like Plumber's Weekly or something, like from trade, like just insider kind of stuff. So what I got was about Quality Assurance United or something. And this magazine is just full of stuff about like pest control and like finding allergens. And that was the highlight of my month so far. So that's something about me. Well, it's really weird.
I mean, I definitely wasn't expecting that, but when it comes down to a weird little fun fact, weird little story, that definitely constitutes it, because I would definitely not expect someone who is definitely in more of a, rock band, punk rock influence band, alt rock influence band, to be receiving just these random trade magazines on a monthly basis.
Yeah, it's my first one. When I heard about it, this guy on Twitter, his name is Tim Hoang. I just was like fascinated with the concept, and so got my first one. Well, I look forward to the next one.
I'm like, I wonder what the next one's going to be, because it honestly could be anything.
I think another prior one was like magician stuff. So like all the kind of magicians trade, like behind the scenes stuff with that. That'd be really cool.
See, I was hoping for something like, like Hardwood Enthusiast Monthly or...
Yeah, any of that stuff. Because what's funny is these little things, they have their own concerns that nobody else knows or cares about. So yeah, the hardwood, what would, the trees being harder to harvest or something, or whatever regulations you don't think about with the hardwood floors. But it'd be just interesting.
Or like rating the different types of wood when it comes to, okay, for if you were going to have hardwood floors, what type of wood is going to be the best for Just the look with a finish, best for durability. So if you have hardwood floors and you have a bunch of kids running around, what's going to be the best to hold that up? What's going to be the best in between? What's going to be the best bang for your buck? What's going to be the most, what's going to be best like for a house that's, living in a more volatile climate. So if it's like, okay, what's going to be better for something that's going to experience summer and winter? What's going to be best for something like, be living down in Miami where it's hot and humid all the time? I mean, you could get something like that in.
Yeah. And then they invent new treatments for the wood, and then it makes it more waterproof or something,
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're building a deck outside your house. And it's like, okay, what do we got? What kind of wood are we going with? And you're just like, I got you covered. And you got this whole nice little trade magazine that just explains exactly what you need so you can make the best decision possible for your nice little outdoor deck.
So yeah, I'll let you know the next one that I get.
Oh,
I guess we have a few months.
Oh, please do, because I'm going to be very curious to see, okay, what are you going to get next? And if it comes out with some random thing like Hardwood Enthusiast Monthly, or if it's anything to deal with hardwood, I am probably going to just, if wherever I'm at, whether it's, at work, hanging out with some friends, and I see all of a sudden it's like, got a message from Daisy. The trade journal I got, it is about hardwood. I'll probably just sit there and be like, yeah!
No, but the right answer to that is that's what she said. Sorry.
I got that's what she said. Oh Lord, that is a first on the podcast, because usually when it comes to making random jokes like that is usually my call. But you know what?
I got to represent the band. We do this all the time.
I had been bested on this one, but it is definitely early on in the podcast, so my time will come. Well, that'd have been a perfect time for another one like that. But oh well. But well, jumping into the music, how about we actually do some of that first? Because I want to make sure that does get talked about as well. Due to the fact that when I got the notification from Adam Slitter PR, thanks them as well, because they always send me incredible bands, including the Dead. So woo.
They're awesome too. Thank you.
Of course, this first one they sent me was In for Blood, and I'm just like, okay, let's take a listen to this. Let's just see what it's all about. And I'm listening, just thinking, I'm pretty much doing this the whole entire time. It's kind of like the Night at the Roxbury. It's like, yeah. Like constantly have my head bob to it at the exact same time as too, because it just had this great drive throughout the whole entire thing. Well, that's a funny
one, because it's like in 5 or it's in 7, and so it's actually, it gets off if you're just going da 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 da. It switches on you, but it makes it fun.
Yeah, it does, because all of a sudden it's like you're kind of going at it, and all of a sudden you're kind of just like you kind of get messed up at the exact same time too. But I mean, when it comes down to it, it's definitely gonna be something that's gonna grab people's attention and have that kind of like hook behind it, where if you kind of have that consistent just like beat that just makes you want to do the Midnight Rock, you're like da 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 da.
Then you fall asleep.
It can just get rather monotonous at times too. And of course, I'm not gonna put any artists on blast or do that, because if that's what's gonna work best for the song, then definitely go for it.
Almost all songs are like that. So yeah, it's not. That's also a good thing, because that way you can stay in the groove. But yeah,
exactly. And then if you have something like what you have for In for Blood, it's gonna add just more diversity to your overall set as well when you play it live. So there's a lot going on here. And of course, after I heard the song, I'm like, well, let's send a message right off and let's say, yeah, can we make this happen? And boom, here we are. So thanks to In for Blood, and thanks to Adam Slitter PR for that one, because
well, yes, thank you, Adam Slitter.
So let's actually go and dive deep into In for Blood, because that's always one thing I like to do. Because usually when it comes to trying to like really go through a podcast, go through a band, and really understand them, if I get sent a song or something, or sent an album, like, okay, I'm gonna deep dive into this thing. And usually it's like, I take a look at my little note sheet I have on a different screen. It's about 2.5 pages long. So yeah, I don't like skip out on this. Like I try and figure out everything about this song that I can with my own mind. So first thing I always wanted to like to know is when it comes down to In for Blood, when you were writing this, what was the thought process behind like, okay, what does this song end up meaning? And the reason I always ask that is because for me, I always like to figure out what the meaning is to really understand what the story of the song and where it's going, because you put the instrumentals in there, you put the vocals in there, you tie it all together. It really creates this one overall whole experience. And when we're listening to music, and we listen to songs that we absolutely love, we relate to those themes that the song is talking about, whether it's something that we relate to so directly or we don't relate to them exactly, but we relate to the overall emotions and feelings that the song's talking about. So, and it's always kind of curious too to see what the intention was to be meant by, and then how I took it as well to kind of just see how that all plays out. I always like to see how that happens.
Well, I think overall it's kind of like a about being in for blood, like being in for life, versus I kind of telling somebody like, your success, I hope for it, for instance, or I'm hoping for things, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here for all your highs. I'm here for both your highs and your lows. I'm in for blood.
So that's kind of where I took with that kind of meaning as well. Because I'm like, I kind of had two different ideas about it, where it depends upon what stage you are in life, whether you're in a relationship stage or you're in a stage where you're just single, having fun, having a good time. Where if you're in that relationship stage, it's kind of talks about how you have to be, like you said, all in for it, where you're in for the good and the bad, the best and the worst. You're always going to be there. You're in there forever. Or it could be about basically doing whatever you want to do in life and being all in on that and not holding back on that, not holding back on yourself at the same time as well. So kind of taking dual meaning of it. But again, for me, it all depends upon what stage in life you are in at the current moment.
Yeah. Well, our lead singer Meta wrote the lyrics, and I think that's, she likes to mean more than one thing. Usually, I think a lot of times she has something she's saying and then turns it into a love song, or opposite, has a love song and then but like that's too mushy or something and then turns it into a sci-fi. But yeah, I think that it's intended to have both meanings.
But that's definitely a smart way to go about it as well, because then again, it's going to be able to reach a much larger audience in a more impactful way, where yes, we're all going to be able to understand where the song is going. However, if it's going to have potentially more than one meaning, then we're able to latch onto it just as well and just as like get emotionally attached to that song and to that meaning, regardless of where we are in life. Because it was something where it was just strictly about a relationship. If you're kind of in that single space, you're going to be seeing that song in a completely different light. And if you're not really into if you're not really in relationships, or you just got, you just went through a breakup and you don't want to deal with any of that, you're not going to resonate with that song as well. With this one kind of having the legs to really, expand its reach to all these different kinds of people, and everyone is going through one of those things at that point in life, whenever they're listening to it, you really are able to connect with it in a much deeper way.
I agree. I mean, because sometimes you're very much in the mood for love songs and sappy stuff like that, and then other times you're not at all in the mood for that. So it's good when a song can adapt.
That is true. But however, usually when I'm listening to songs that they talk about love or anything like that, they usually end up going bleh at some point during the song. So that's usually how I roll with it. But when it comes to info, when it comes to really like putting the song together with how you wrote it, especially with, we were talking about where it's kind of got that point in time where you can really like bop your head to it and really get into the groove of it. But then also, if you keep doing that, you're going to be getting messed up at some point because it really takes it out there. What was the process like when it came to writing this song overall as the band and really bringing this all together?
This was actually kind of unusual. We almost always write all of our songs together in the room from nothing. This is pretty close to that, but I woke up in the middle of the night. I don't know. I guess more than a year ago, because we recorded it a year ago. But just had this little riff in my head and actually got out of bed, which was not normal. I got out of bed and like picked it out and figured out what it was that was in my head and took a note and did a quick recording and then went back to sleep. But I saved that. I was like, next time we do, I want to try to do this. I know it's in a weird time signature, but I think we can do something with this. And we did. It is kind of hard to learn at first, but we kind of took it as a little bit of a challenge and turned it into a whole song.
But one thing you said that really sticks on my mind is the fact that you got the inspiration for a riff to build the song off of in the middle of the night. And instead of just being like, oh, I'll remember it in the morning, you got up and you recorded it so that when you would wake up in the morning, if you wanted to revisit it, you weren't going to be like, oh no, what the heck was I actually thinking? What the heck was I actually hoping for? And then,
Oh, you have to do that every time. Anytime you have anything like that, you have to at least do a voice memo real quick. And a lot of times those won't translate, you can't even figure out what that was, like la, 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 la. But sometimes you can, or at least use that as a starting point to maybe do something else. But yeah, you have to, or you won't remember. It's impossible.
Absolutely, because listening to other podcasts as well, just hearing how people do certain things. A lot of comedians will do the same thing as well, where if they have an idea for a bit and they just have it at the most random times, they'll either write it down or they'll do a voice memo thing so that, if they have to go to a kid's birthday party or go do a set or do a podcast or whatever the heck they have to do. And then they try and come back to it. It's, what the hell was I actually thinking about? Boom. Now you have it recorded so you're able to just remember those thoughts. And inspiration can strike at any moment. And the fact that when it struck, you're like, okay, I got to maximize on this. Record it, get it down, and then revisit a little bit later, work on it, build off of it, and all of a sudden now you got in for blood. Boom. Totally works.
Yep. That's what happened.
I'll say that no wonder why they had a little bit more of that bass amplification in there. Because, of course, I always like to
There's never enough bass. That's always the joke of when it was being mixed and mastered. Those are basically my only notes. I'm like, I'm not hearing myself enough.
That's right. There was a band that I've talked in the podcast before. They're from out of Germany, a band called Pentastone. They just released their debut record, and I was listening to it on a drive through Wisconsin because I was going to visit a friend. And I was listening to the whole entire thing. I'm like, wow, they're really putting the bass out there a lot more forward. Like, we need a little bit more of that, because otherwise, whenever you hear a lot of the strings in a lot of music, whether it's rock, metal, or any of the subgenres based off it, a lot of heavy guitar-driven stuff right now where the bass is really, it's there, but it's really kind of camouflaged by what the guitars are doing at that point.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a cool sound too, but it's cool to mix that up and put the bass forward. Or a little more forward, at least.
Oh, absolutely. Just because, what's the best way to put it? There's a lot of times where all of a sudden you remember certain things just on, whatever a funky bass riff might be. You hear a funky bass riff and all of a sudden a lot of times people will think, oh, they'll start thinking about just whatever, that is attached to, whether it's the funky bass riff from You Can Call Me Al by Paul Simon it's like its instrumental interlude. Or or the bass riff that is in every episode of Seinfeld. Like, exactly what it's from, and it's just because it's not heavily used as much. Not even anymore. It wasn't heavily used beforehand, but especially in today's day and age, it seems like it's a completely lost art. And now I'm starting to see some younger bands and some bands that are really emerging in the scene today, really starting to employ that a little bit more. So starting to become a little bit of a bigger thing, especially in the bands that are going to be the biggest bands come, let's say, 2025, 2030.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's funny. The song that's got in my head as soon as you said funky bass line was Superstitious, the Stevie Wonder.
Yes.
Dun, 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 dun. Very superstitious.
Yeah, okay. So again, it's like whenever you hear like that funky bass, like you remember exactly what it is. And of course, I'll use guitar solos as well. It's like there's certain guitar solos you hear them and you know exactly what it's from.
Oh,
but
yeah.
There's so many of them that it's like, I remember there was a challenge on YouTube I saw. It's like, oh, can you name this guitar solo? And I heard it, I'm like, okay, let's see if I got. Even for me, I think I got 2 out of 10 right. And it's like out of a lot of famous songs, but like I just couldn't tell the guitar solo. Like of course I could tell the one from Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. That one's rather famous, but yeah, I was like something from Rush. I was like, I know this song. Why the heck can I get that right?
That's funny. I just went down a Guns N' Roses rabbit hole. Kind of we grew up with them and love them and stuff, but listen fresh, as though it just came out or something. And yeah, really amazing stuff. Still, it holds up. Still really awesome.
I'm going to have to do that as well because of all the new stuff that I listen to and all the stuff from a lot of bands that are big now or upcoming right now. Taking a look at the bands that I grew up on or that my dad just was like, here, I'm going to show you these bands and let's see what happens. And so it's basically the bands that I started out with before I really started venturing on my own. So it's like bands like ZZ Top, Poison, Van Halen, Rush, listening to Moving Pictures by Rush, just the whole entire thing through. I should do that on like a nighttime drive and just really enjoy it because
Yeah.
Man, that sounds like a good time.
It is. It really is a good time. And I don't know, you learn things. I did the same thing actually with Steely Dan, Asia or Aha. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but I think it's their most famous and critically acclaimed record. And I realized I dislike them very much. Like it never bothered me. I guess their singles or whatever didn't really bother me on the radio, but just sitting down and listening, it was so like cold and dry feeling, just the production. And I don't know, it just wasn't for me.
Yeah,
I just started feeling like, ugh.
And that's a thing when if you go on like a nighttime drive and just really just like, turn on an album, listen to it the whole way through, don't skip anything, just really invest your time and yourself into it. You're going to really find out, do I like this band? Do I not like this band? And if I do like this band, why? If I'm not the biggest fan of this band, why is that? If it's not for you, you're just going to find out all the reasons why, but then you're going to connect to the music as well.
It was weird because this was one I couldn't really figure out why. I actually ended up like I texted the girls and I texted a couple other friends that love music and are into it that maybe could shed some light on why I didn't like it, because it's got the jazzy stuff. It's really, there's some intricate and all the musicianship, and there's like a lot of check marks, but just as a whole, it doesn't come together for me. And one of the friends that I had messaged about this gave me a nice palate cleanser of some Elton John. So we listened to, now I can't remember, the one that starts with Tiny Dancer, that record. And I was like, okay, music is good again.
Yeah, I know usually for me, it's like, okay, if I need a palate cleanser, already. I've like listened to a couple of things and I'm just not really feeling it. What do I need as a palate cleanser? I'll always just go back to what I know best. Like, all right, let's just put on the Rise Against. Let's go with some punk rock. Let's just jam out. And I'm back at it.
Yeah, I could see that. I'll keep that in mind for next time.
Ooh, yeah. Definitely do that, because it's just like, because I've done that with like just doing the nighttime drive stuff. Like, okay, let's listen to some of this stuff. If I need something like, okay, I really wasn't the biggest fan, I just need to get something back into like what I like, I'll jump into a bunch of Rise Against. I'll jump into bands like Ice Nine Kills. I'll jump back into what I like back in middle school and listen to Indestructible by Disturbed and just kind of just enjoy it and just always remember like these specific bands. I'm like, I was really big on this band back at this point in life. And all of a sudden, like, need a palate cleanser, listen to it. I just kind of get transported back to that time and just remember certain things about that time that were either good, bad, great, worse, terrible, whatever it might be. But it's kind of like it's a trip in a way at the same time.
Yeah,
but
it's like
then
a
you
new
also,
energy. Yeah.
But then you also like you listen to things and it's like a time warp back to, again, those times, and you learn different things about yourself by just reminiscing about those times. Like, oh, why the heck would I do something like that? Oh.
Yeah.
Now I know why I did that. Even like back then when you didn't know why you were doing it, you still don't know why you're doing it. You listen to music, you go back to that time. I mean, basically it's like time travel right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's even kind of, God, I think there was a quote I just saw. I think someone posted on Facebook. It was talking about a difference between art and music. And it was, art is how we decorate space, but music is how we decorate time.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
It kind of just like speaks to that as well. Because it's just, we remember this. It's like we remember, like when we listen to music, because you probably have the same thing as well, where you listen to certain songs, certain bands. And when you listen, you just get transported back to a specific time because you have a specific memory, a specific emotion attached to that song. So you remember it and it's just like reliving it all over again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, any genre. Yeah. As soon as you pick out any music, that it does that for me anyway. It's like choose your mood, but sometimes you can't choose your mood, or you want to stay in the mood you're in. But if you don't want to stay in the mood you're in, then go somewhere else. And you can do that, with your favorite listening device, probably your phone.
I still use an old ass iPod for a very couple of reasons. One is because, I'm working with music all the time. I have so much download on my computer. It's like, well, I'm just going to use that. Second is, when I'm listening to it, I don't want any distractions. Like, I want to just be fully immersed in it, whether I'm in the car, in the gym, whatever it might be. So if I have it on my phone, all of a sudden I'm listening to it, all of a sudden I'm getting different text messages, different emails, different everything. Have it on one of those old iPods, turn the Wi-Fi off, boom. There's no way you're getting a hold of me.
It's funny you brought up your iPod. I was thinking earlier today just about the word podcast. Does that come from iPods?
I honestly have absolutely no idea where the word podcast comes from, but I do want to look this up right now.
Yeah, like which would be funny because podcasts are so popular now. And then of course the iPod is not. And it was kind of the opposite. There's like room in our timeline for only one pod.
I'm looking it up right now, and what I'm getting from it, where the origin is a mix between broadcast and iPod.
So it is. It comes from the iPod, which basically doesn't exist anymore.
Unless unless you want to be a dinosaur like me, friends. Woo!
Well, yeah, but you can't. They don't make them new anymore, do they?
Shoot. The last time I got a new one was end of 2018, I think.
Oh, okay. So maybe they do still make them.
I think they still do. And even if they didn't, I'd probably be like, okay, let's just find like an old iPhone and just don't use the phone feature on it. Because it's like the same. It's basically the same thing at that point.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Especially at this point. Yeah.
Then all of a sudden I'm walking around. It's like, oh, hey, you got an iPhone. No. I'm using this iPhone as an iPod. That's it. Well, where's your phone? It's like, now all of a sudden I pull out the Samsung Galaxy. It's like, oh, you're one of those people? Yeah, I'm one of those people.
The androids.
Yes, that's the way I roll. I mean, I've had my most recent phone since 2017, almost 4 years old at this point. So if it keeps rolling, it keeps rolling. But I probably got to get a new one soon. That battery is dying quickly on me every single time.
That's how they get you.
No, so when like concerts return and festivals return, and I'm always out there because I'll take different videos of every single band I see, put it up on social media, put it up so people can see what it is. And it's like I always try and get like as close as I possibly can, get the best angle because I'm like, if you're gonna be watching concert videos on Instagram or anything, you're gonna want something that's not gonna be just like, okay, it's heavily zoomed in, the audio's like you want to be able to at least hear what the song is and try and figure it out from there.
Yeah, I've seen actually a lot of non iPhones really take much better pictures, and especially concert videos. I've seen kind of after the show, people come and show me what what they recorded. And I'm like, wow, that turned out really good. Way better than my iPhone.
Wait. People, when after your shows, they'll come up to you and like actually show you the videos that they recorded of you?
Yeah, or me, or they're showing me. I'm remembering just the experience of other people at the show showing me stuff on their phones. So they might be telling me like the show they were at last night, or, just having a conversation, but I've been impressed by those.
Well, then, I mean, it's like I wouldn't show you all the crazy ones that I have, but I think that would take a long time and probably wouldn't be the most exciting thing in the world.
Well, it's funny. I thought about I didn't do it, but I should look back and look at like my oldest videos, because they probably are like really bad concert videos. Which I never would post because they're so dark. And like you said, there's nasty sounding and just no good. It's just for the memory. I was there. That's my memento.
Yeah. I've got, like, if I look back at mine, like I've got some really, really bad ones that I've saved from like 2011, 2012. It's just like, oh, I don't really want to watch any of those because it's such bad quality. It wasn't.
And even like, I have lots from tour now. I'm thinking about it. Like, I'm side stage, or I'm like up front, even sometimes in the photographer pit, but I'm very close because I'm allowed to be. I'm opening band, and try to get pictures or videos, and it just is nothing. It's not good. Right, it's a whole other genre. It takes a lot of practice because, I do know how to use my phone. It's just, there's something about concert photography in particular, and probably it's similar to sports. It's just the movement. And then dealing with the lighting and all that. It's a whole other ball game. Oh, so props to all the concert photographers out there.
Absolutely it is.
Because like the shots, it's not easy.
Because even like there's like certain videos where I look at them like, man, there's no way in hell I could be a concert photographer. Then there's certain videos and pictures I'm like, I'm pretty sure I did better than every concert photographer out there. Like I've got one as my phone background where it's the crazy thing. It's like the crowd is like all in front and it's still kind of dark. You can see the silhouette of the crowd. You look on stage and you see a bunch of just like the smoke machines going out, and you see in the back of it, just says Rise, so the Rise Again show. and you see Tim McElrath on top of like some riser, some speakers holding his guitar up, and you can't see anything but his silhouette. I'm just like, okay, this is the coolest photo I think I've ever taken. This is my phone background, and it's been that way for 3.5 years at this point. And it's not going away.
Oh yeah.
But I do have to ask this because you said, especially like you got a lot of from on your phone from like side stage, seeing different bands. What is the best band you've ever seen while being side stage?
Hailstorm. It has to be.
All right, I got to ask why.
Because they're just so awesome. Their live show is really one of the best. And I get asked that question quite a bit. And I wouldn't pick favorites just in general, but as far as just the live show, I would say, yeah, for sure, Hailstorm. I mean, they make a point to kind of make their show have these moments. And they've talked to us about that early on when they first took us on tour. And I don't know how well, I think we do sometimes and maybe always, it's hard to judge, but we think about that too. But they definitely execute some really special moments, like big ones and poignant ones. And yeah, another really cool that I enjoyed was on the Bush tour. Those guys really, really rock too. And didn't really know what to expect with Gavin, just because he's just known for being handsome or whatever, but he's a fucking rock star. And he would I think without exception, every venue he would kind of scope out, and he would leave on a particular song. He would leave and he'd go out in the crowd and climb up on balconies if he needed to, or, he'd get up on stuff, but he'd get out in the crowd. And I was always worried he wasn't going to make it back. So I would like that particular song. I was just like waiting for him to get back on stage, but he always did. And he was fine, unscathed.
But honestly, thinking about it, especially from what you said with Hailstorm, with how they create like their position to create moments at every single show, whether it's something that's going to be something, just full on out there, full of energy, full of life, make people in the mosh pit like myself want to smash into each other just for fun, or just those moments where everything's brought down a little bit more sentimental, a little bit more personal, a little bit more poignant, and just really put it out there. And then someone like Gavin from Bush, just jump into the crowd. I've seen that plenty of times before, and I always love when bands jump into the crowd. I think the craziest one I've ever seen was, or the most intricate one I've ever seen was I saw Anti-Flag, and their bassist and their drummer both jumped into the crowd. Like they brought part of the kit down into the crowd.
Awesome.
So it's like,
that sounds like fun.
So I was like, well, when it comes to that too, it's like, you're seeing all these bands, you're seeing them create these moments for their fans as well. So when you're looking at this from the stage, or just, in the crowd at the same time as well, you have to be thinking at the same time too, how can we make those moments happen during our set so that when people leave the show, when they're thinking about it, what are they going to be thinking about the most? They're not going to think, we don't want them to think about the headliner the most. We want to think about, what they saw with us and like the different things that happened. Because with that Anti-Flag show, they weren't the headliner, but that's the thing I remember the most about that was them jumping into the crowd. And there's plenty of other shows where it's like, okay, I don't remember what the headliner exactly did. I do remember exactly what the opener did though, because it was something that was so out of what I expected, so way out of left field. But it's 3 years later and I still remember it.
I have one of those too, actually, with Hailstorm, and our first tour with them, the other band we were the opener, and the guys in the middle were called New Medicine. And they have a song called Race You to the Bottom. And whenever they did that, they would get it set up to where two of them would like chug a beer and race to chug a beer. They had a little breakdown in the song that they did that. And yeah, that was also a fun moment where, especially since we saw the show like 30 times, but like, who's going to win tonight? That was our favorite song.
Because even as someone that was on tour with them and just watching this happen every single night, it kind of was something fresh because you're just potentially seeing the same show over and over and over again. But you never know what's going to happen at that point. Who's going to win? Yep. And after whoever wins, what's the person that's going to lose have to do? I mean, there's always going to be something different. You never know. Some weird kind of like crazy punishment for losing. If they ever came up with that could have been something big. You never know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So but now I
miss it.
So I would say, so now, we've been without live show. Like, Oh,
Sorry,
what?
tilted my phone.
It happens. So, but where I was going to go with that is when it comes to making those moments as a band, what do the Dead Deads do in order to make those moments? And what are some of those moments that you try and create for fans through what you're doing on stage?
Oh, it's hard to say. Our lead singer does a lot of that. I guess, and so, yeah, she can kind of bring it down or bring it up, read the room. When you're designing your set list when you're putting your set list together, you think about that too. Like, we want to smash them in the face right off. And then, you have a softer song or something in the middle. And then, you want to leave strong too. So you think about that a little bit. But as far as stage stuff, I think sometimes a lot of our songs already have the moments within the song. And also it takes more of a production budget to have those moments. So if we're talking about, like, just to keep using Hailstorm as an example, there's a point where they'll roll out a piano and it's just Lizzie and a piano, and then the rest of the band takes a breather. And that's a very special moment. We don't really do anything like that. But it's definitely something we think about. What is the flow going to be like? Because even though you want to smash them in the face to start off with, you can't just keep smashing them in the face. You have to come back. And even especially for tour, because you're a lot more, you're allotted a certain amount of time. And so you want to make sure that you don't want to go over. And so we'll bake in even like who's going to talk, or, when the speaking times are, and plan around like whether that's also a guitar change or whether that's going to be, what else do we do? I guess mostly guitar or guitar tuning, or for our drummer to like rig up another thing, for the upcoming song. We plan through all that for sure.
And that's definitely something to think about as well, just to, just make sure the show flows as well as possible. However, One thing you said did stick out my mind, because it was the fact that when you're creating the set list, you want to create it so that, you're not smashing people in the face every single second, because I'll put it this way, I have been to those shows where you get smashed in the face every single time. I'll bring the Anti-Flake show because Pennywise was the headliner, and Pennywise basically did that. They were just smashing the face for an hour and 15 minutes. Don't get me wrong, it was fun, but it just, when it comes down to what I remember most about that show, it's not going to be that. It's going to be Chris number 2 and their drummer from Anti-Flag jumping in the crowd and playing. But what another thing too is that I think about is, because one of my favorite shows I ever went to was 2019. I was in Chicago for Riot Fest to see Rise Against, and it was hot, humid as all hell, and they just were smashing the face almost every single step of the way. All of a sudden, they're about 3/4 of the way through their set. People are passing out left and right. Like, we're crowd surfing people to the front that have passed out so they can get medical attention because of how packed it was in there.
Oh my goodness.
I was in the mosh pit and I was dying. I'm like, I just need a little bit of a break. And that was at that moment where all of a sudden the rest of the band goes off. Tim just has the acoustic guitar, plays 2 songs. Everyone was just super happy because we finally got the breather that we needed. So again, when it comes to I use that as just, you think about this as well when it comes to building your set to make sure that it has this great flow to it. So it's like, okay, you're going to smash people in the face. Okay, people might get tired of this. They're going to need to change up right at this moment. Boom, this is where we put it.
Yep. Yeah, when we have longer sets, we can. I'm remembering now, like on Kiss Cruise, which we were on not this past October, but the prior October, that we were able to build in an acoustic, like 3 songs, I think, because we had like 55 minutes. We had a very long 75 minutes set, and we played that 5 times. And yeah, so we had the luxury of really building a nice acoustic part of the show, which is fun.
And that's something that, again, people are going to remember at some point as well, just due to the fact that it is the change up, and it allows you as a band to connect with the audience in a different way as well. Because again, if you keep smashing them in the face every single time, that energy is going to be there. But if the song calls for that more somber tone, that more somber energy, that more brought down kind of feel that the crowd needs to have, you're going to want to make sure the crowd has that emotion going in there. Instead of just, we're going to play this at a time where all of a sudden you guys are all amped up. You want to keep going. You're going to want to play that at a time where all of a sudden the crowd might be still in that energy mode, but they're ready to come down from it for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And then you can build in things where kind of similar of crowd participation. There's some songs where like that's now it's time to clap, everybody, and get some clapping, and that feels good too. There's a song I remember that I'm thinking of. It's a very small moment, but I do it every song. It's called Nope. And I got like, I stick my tongue out. I'm like, I don't know, like that. And they all, like, our fans know that, and I'll find somebody and make eye contact and we'll do it together.
Nice.
That's a little moment, I guess, too.
It's a little moment where I'll put it this way. It's not going to be something like what you talk about with Lizzie Hale bringing out the piano and playing it by herself, where it's not going to be something where it's going to reach this large group of the audience because everyone's able to see it. By doing something like that with that little tongue thing and just pointing out someone in the crowd and doing that, when it comes down to it, that's just going to stick out in that one person's mind throughout the whole entire rest of the show. Whether you're the opener, whether you're the headliner, whatever it might be, it's at one little moment. You made sure that fan always remembers that show because of that. Is it the biggest thing in the world? No. Does it still have that big of an impact, though, for that one person? Absolutely.
Good, yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think if there's any crazy ones like that, but no one ever looks at me at shows. I'm usually the one that's like flying all over the place in the pit, potentially getting injured. Actually, not potentially.
Oh, no, they're more
probably
feeding off you. Those people, even though we can't make eye contact because you're flailing around, but we're gaining energy from that. We need it. That's good.
I'll say that, and that's one thing I absolutely love too, because when, there's us fans, we're going crazy in the pit. And as you as the band, if you're picking up on energy and it's just like feeding your energy, all of a sudden your energy is going to end up getting amped up more. Yep. In the pit, when we look at you, we're going to recognize that. And then our energy level is going to keep going up. And it's just going to be something where everyone's going to try and one up each other to the point where all of a sudden the whole entire place is in one giant pit. Everyone's going to huge wall of death. Everyone's going to crash into each other. I might break my nose again, but it happens.
That's what we came here for. Hell yeah.
Oh, usually any kind of show that I get injured at is usually one that I remember forever. Is like, this is one of the best ones ever. Yeah, I should have probably gotten stitches at that one, but I didn't want to leave.
Yeah, you made it.
That's the way it is. So hopefully when live shows return and I get a chance to see the Dead Dads again, I'll have the red X's on there. So, I mean, you won't know if you'll always think I'm dead at some point. So.
Yes. We'll just have to make sure you're not actually dead.
I mean, you might have to call it, Kevin, are you good? And all of a sudden you're just going to see just me just like on a stretcher like this. And you're just going to see just the hand go, yep. Okay. He's good. He'll be out for the next 2 songs. He'll be fine. That would definitely be something that I would pull off. Don't get me wrong in that. But okay, jumping back to In for Blood, because that's definitely something I want to make sure that we really go into a little bit more, because again, listening to that riff as well, it definitely does have that catchy feel to it. Like right when the song intros as well, because I always, again, I'm looking at my notes here, I want to like just really jump in. That intro, it kind of has more of that like pop rock meets hard rock guitar and bass style there, and it was quick, but it sets up for something a lot more in that rock bass to it. So I'm like, okay, I'm ready to head in this verse. So it's something where the intro, it's quick, but it is the perfect setup to really lead into this song. So I was like, of course, I'm thinking about like, all righty, here we go. Right. So I was going to be very curious to see, especially when, of course, live shows come back and that little quick intro hits, because it's going to be that like it's going to be that quick primer for the audience at the exact same point where it's like, oh crap, it's In for Blood. Let's go. Yeah. I mean, we like to do that. I don't think that song, when we were talking about set lists, we also think about how songs end and how the next one begins, and some that can like flow right into the others, and others need a hard break and then to begin and not just flow from one to the other. So it'll be interesting. We sometimes rework whole songs, well, not full songs, but we'll rework like intros and do them differently for that flow, because that's really cool when you can do that. Oh, absolutely. It is, just given the fact that, again, we're talking about, making sure that the energy is just transferred from one part of the show to the next, where you're basically creating that experience for people and making sure as a band, you're kind of managing that energy at some point. So, so having the ability is like, okay, maybe we're going to tweak the intro or the outro to this one so it better flows into the intro of this song, or better flows into whatever the next song might be. I mean, that's just something where I kind of think about it with, what's a good example? Kind of like Eminem when he was talking about like, okay, how does like come up with these words? Like, I just change the words around, I change the pronunciation around so that it fits what I'm trying to go for. Because I've seen an interview where he said that. I'm like, okay, it's kind of the similar thing here, where you're really pulling that off at the exact same point as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times we're not everybody that comes to our show has ever heard us, especially when we're on tour and opening for much bigger bands. But sometimes even those guys, they're going to like 5 of the shows of the tour or something, so they kind of get it, and so it's good to mix that up a little bit too.
Oh yeah, because especially
our drummer McQueen is really good at figuring out those transitions. Like, this is going to work into this, and then she'll do some kind of cool, like, and then we'll go.
Well, not only that, but that's also a very big thing you guys can use with songwriting as well, especially if your drummer is able to really just work with these different transitions, not only with a live show, but all of a sudden within the song itself. McQueen's like, okay, we're going to take this part of the song, go to this part of the song, but we need something that accurately moves it from one part to the other so it doesn't feel super awkward going through there. Get that transition in there. Boom. Now you're set, ready to go.
She is really good at that. Yeah.
And whenever I go through music as well, that's always one thing I pick up on as well, because especially it's like throughout the whole entire song, you're telling a story at the same time as well. So it's how that song is being transferred from one section to the other, and how those transitions are done. Hell, it can be no transition. All of a sudden you go to something that's like completely like a 180 style, and that could absolutely work. It just depends upon the song.
Yeah. Anything goes, really.
I'm trying to think of a good example. It was like trying to think of a good recent example. And so it went by the Pretty Reckless, because after the chorus, when they go into the bridge, and it's like all of a sudden it's like it kind of has this like real melodic, like thumping hard rock feel. Then it goes really soft out of nowhere with no transition. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? But again, it all depends on the song. It works. If it was a different song, that quick abrupt just change with no real transition there, it could possibly just work out horribly, but it could work out well. It just depends on the song.
We love to do that. We actually are a little bit addicted to it, and we'll keep doing it because we know it feels good and we like to do that. But that's a known, like, we keep doing that in songs, or right, like a banging, I guess basically just like a quiet bridge. We'll like smacking you with the verses, smacking you harder with the choruses, and then drop out. And then there's like one where like do an arm wave or you do something. But yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, and again, that's not something that's bad. It just, again, all depends upon the song that you're playing, if it basically needs it or not, if it feels natural. Because one thing I'm always a big proponent of is if those transitions really work out naturally and they feel like they fit into the song, oh man, you're going to end up having something that's going to sound real dynamic to the overall audience. But if you're like, okay, we need it, it's like, okay, if you have something where it feels really well to have all of a sudden, that abrupt transition in there, but then you try and force this like intricate transition to go from one part to the next, you could completely just mess up the song at that point. I've seen it happen before. It's
tricky getting out of those quiet moments now that you say that, because then you have to like a little bit at a time, and we kind of go back and forth and figure out like, is the drums going to come back if we just drop down to only say a guitar and singing, or just a guitar for a second, and then Meta starts singing, and then it's like, do we need a percussive thing first or a bass first? If we come in together, that's like kind of a lot, or should we come in one at a time and continue building? And we do it differently. It depends on the song, what we feel like at the moment. But those are things you have to think about, work through.
And not
I keep saying it's fun, but that's part of the fun of it.
I was going to say, not only think about, but also just try as well, because what happens if you have this absolutely ridiculous, ludicrous kind of idea to go from one part of the song to the next that you want to try out, and you think about it, and it, like, in theory, you're thinking, there is no way in hell this is ever going to work. But then you actually try it, and it's like the perfect thing that you needed for that song. I mean, it just, you got to try it if it's there, but if it doesn't work out, okay, you can feel free to go next. If all of a sudden you don't think it's going to work, but it does, boom, you might have just this incredible song.
That's exactly how we do it. We just like, well, let's see. I kind of heard something. Let's try that, and we'll try it and go, that was awesome, or oh, that was funky. And we pretty much agree. We can all feel it, if it works or not.
It sounds like someone's like constantly going up to the other person, like, you feeling it, Mr. Krabs? Do you feel it, Mr. Krabs? Like, no, this ain't this way working. You feel it? You feel it?
No, I mean, I'm thinking there's sometimes like if maybe one of us doesn't feel it and one of us does, or two of us, whatever. We'll also like, I'm not feeling it, but let's play it through a few times, and then again, by that time it's like, okay, now I feel it. or after the few more times, everybody's like, actually I prefer something else or something.
Yeah. And again, it all depends upon, as a band, taking these moments, giving them a shot, seeing what happens, because you never know. You might try something weird and it could be the greatest thing in the world. You might try something weird and it could absolutely fall flat, but you never know if you don't actually try it.
Yeah. That's our philosophy.
And that's a good philosophy to have. It just creates a much more dynamic sound in the end.
I think so too. And it's just how our personalities work together too.
and again, and if your personalities are going to work that way, perfect. That's what you need. That's what you need to roll with. And again, that's going to end up creating this dynamic music where if you didn't do something like that, you didn't create this dynamic music, you wouldn't be opening for the bands that you've opened for previously already.
True.
It's like it's kind of like that old adage of, if it ain't broke, then don't fix it.
Yep.
Just keep. Well, I got to pull out the whole Fred Durst thing. Just keep rolling.
Roll.
What?
There he is.
Hey, I had to bring that out at some point. So everyone, if you want to make fun of me for looking like the quote unquote great value Fred Durst, yeah, you can say it. But okay, but
I think you at least earned Kirkland.
Kirkland brand. Okay, I'll take that. There's some good Kirkland stuff out there. Don't get me wrong.
That's great. Yeah.
So, woo. All right, but back to In for Blood, because even going through a little bit more, when I listen to the verses, the thing that piqued my interest, like, is the drums. You play this, like, it was played with McQueen, like, this slight dynamic style, and the strings from your bass, and then from the guitar from Meta as well, played like this more, I got to look at my notes again to make it more melodic style. Also had this, like, feel like kind of like a grunge inspiration on this part. And this was interesting, especially when we get a more alternative guitar riff in the beginning of the second verse to kind of play a little bit differently. What I liked about this was it creates more of this concentrated feel to the overall song for you to focus on a singular aspect that the message of the song is really looking for. And then when you're going all in on something, it's like this singular, like, more tunnel vision approach. Like, I'm all into this and I'm focused on this, kind of just having that like laser focus in there. It was a good one to have. And the way the song kind of built that off with the feel, especially with a little bit slight dynamic drumming, but a very much more like that grunge inspiration a little bit, kind of just keeping it very narrow. Just the way that the song was constructed, especially behind the meaning, I thought it was a good move to really maximize on that meaning.
Oh, well, awesome. I don't know that we've thought about it that much to that extent, but I guess, I mean, you definitely want to have an interesting verse to keep the interest, and then you want to, you want your choruses to lift.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, we did think about it a little bit, but
yeah. Or it's like kind of like
you gave it a little extra thought. That's awesome.
Well, that's like, for me, that's just kind of how, when I analyze music, that's what I really go for. Because it's, again, I'm going to be the one doing it. I'm analyzing it for myself. So I always look at it. Okay, what does the meaning do? Like, what's the meaning of the overall song? Mm-hmm. And then with the instrumentals, it's, okay, how's the song constructed? What's working here? What's working here? But also, how does it work to kind of just, tell the story that the song is trying to tell?
Yeah.
And then after going through all the instrumentals, because of course that's one whole thing in itself. All right, already. Now, how do the vocals take care of this as well at the same time? And then roll it all into one, because there are times where all of a sudden I'll listen to songs and it's like at the first listen through them, like when I just bare bones listen, I'm like, oh, that really didn't hit me very well. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But then when I go through it deeper, it's, yeah, that might not be the best song that I really care for. However, I fully understand where you were going with this. And I fully understand the reason behind it. And I'll use the Pretty Reckless as an example of what their Death by Rock and Roll, because like the second half, I wasn't the biggest fan of it because it just wasn't necessarily my style. However, going through it that way, I fully understand why they wrote it the way they did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's cool that you do that.
Yeah. So when it comes to music, it's like it's like when I say I deep dive into it, like there's like I will go into like the deep end. Like, do you do this with songs that you write? Like, do you think about them a lot in that way? I can't write songs. I would be the worst at it. I like the way I analyze them. I came up with this just randomly on my own. I just like, okay, this is how I want to do it. I'm gonna go. I mean, I could see that, yeah, because there's the thing called analysis paralysis that you might get if you're thinking about too much before you get started. But maybe you should try. Maybe I should let's just see what I could come up with. Yeah. But when it would come to like maybe like actually writing stuff out, though, I might actually need a good amount of help, because when it comes to any kind of guitar, bass guitar, anything like that, I still look at them and be like, okay, how does this even work? I don't understand it. Drumming.
Just do it to your skill level. You don't have to be Eddie Van Halen.
My skill level would probably be like, I mean, I'd tell my buddy, it's like, I have no idea. I have to get on my buddy on this. Like, I've had no idea what the hell I'm doing with this. When it comes to drumming, though, that's a different story. I did do that as a kid. So I'm like, I know a little bit more about that and how certain things work off of that. So I could build off of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know what your schedule is like and how much time you have, but you should think about that.
I could probably do it between the hours of 10:30 p.m. and 11 p.m.
Right.
It might take me a year or two to write a whole song, but I mean, it could work.
We have a song that's coming out on the new record that we wrote it in 10 minutes, and then just recorded it, like on one of our phones, and then sent it to. That's what we do. We sit in the room, write the song. When we basically get to where we can pretty much at least play through it. Enough to then record it, and that way we can listen and maybe make better parts than we came up off the top of our head. Whoever did it named that voice memo 10-minute song, and we were writing multiple songs, so it was like this song, and then there was 10-minute song, and like none of us wanted to ever listen to it again because it sounded like it was going to be a 10-minute long song. We're like, no, that's not happening. We don't need to work on that anymore. And then finally, one of us, probably Meta, actually listened to it, opened the thing and listened to it. And it was that awesome song that we created in 10 minutes. And that's one of our favorite ones to perform now. And yeah, I'm excited for that to finally come out.
That's one thing I actually hear a lot of different stories about.
But it's only like 3 minutes. It's not 10 minutes.
What I was going to say was like, I hear a lot of stories like that where all of a sudden there's certain songs where it's just, they were created in this real short amount of time. And it seems like, okay, short amount of time, that's just what the song is going to be. But there's a good amount of times where it's just when the inspiration strikes, and if the iron is hot, just keep rolling at it. If it takes 10 minutes to write a masterpiece, it takes 10 minutes to write a masterpiece. If it takes 2 years to write a masterpiece, it takes 2 years. It just happens.
Yeah, that was one that kind of just happened. It's also very simple. I mean, it was almost by design. We were like, well, we don't change around that much. It's not that complicated. Meta still she took some time and figured out the lyrics, but those came when we were done. She just wrote. It just came out of her hand, out of her brain. So it's neat when that happens. It doesn't work that way every time, but.
No, it doesn't. But I've also now I'm thinking 10-minute song, what you said, potentially write my own song at the same time as well. I've kind of got a way where I could potentially have some inspiration for that, because there's a guy on YouTube. He does all those Emo's Not Dead videos. And he ended up creating this fake emo band. I think he also did with someone from Dashboard Confessional as well that also helped out the song. But it was, they created this full on emo song, and it's okay, you're going to listen to it okay, we'll see what this is. It's definitely a parody emo song, but it's damn good.
Yeah, there's somebody I follow on Twitter. His name is Nick Lutzko, I think. And he does really silly songs, but he does such a good job with them. They're so hooky and just so good. And these earworms about mostly politics, but also about the gremlins. And he has a whole weird world.
All right, I'm gonna.
He makes really good songs and then puts silly lyrics on top of them.
I'm gonna have to go check. I'm gonna have to make sure I check his stuff out after this just to see what it's all about.
It's hilarious, yeah.
But I want to go back into In for Blood as well.
Sorry.
No, it's totally fine. Again, all the just the side conversation we've had off of this. Again, if it wasn't for that, I mean, now I wouldn't be potentially trying to, maybe write my own song just out of nowhere, just from talking.
Yeah, do it.
We'll see what happens.
What else you got?
I mean, I got a lot more because I've only talked about the intro and the verses and an instrumental point as well. So there's plenty more.
That instrumental part of that song. It's fun. That's fun to play.
Because of course we also get into the pre-chorus, and my standpoint was there was a slight amplification here on the strings, and the drums playing this consistent 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and to build up some energy going to the chorus with that rock sound, and then really playing this more elongated note in the second half of the pre-chorus, because it's like a 2-measure pre-chorus in a way.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's an interesting move in the end, because it does a great job to really build up the energy going into the chorus. But that elongated note at the end really is kind of contrast against that first part as well. So you're really getting two different parts within with this whole pre-chorus.
It's
but
like
with
something's happening.
Exactly. But I was like, but with how quick it happens, you will miss it if you're not careful. So it's a good one to really force you to focus on that singular style of the message right here, because if it's quick, you're going to miss it. But if, again, you're laser focused in, kind of like if you're laser focused in on this song, you're not going to miss it. You're going to understand every aspect of why it's so quick in that little avenue. So it was like a subtle move there that really worked out well to just make you go into the chorus with like all the energy that you need to. Again, that transfer of energy from the verse to the pre-chorus. Now you're transferring to the chorus as well, and that elongated note is just how it sounded. Ooh, really nice.
Cool. Well, yay.
I've still got more though, because of course
what else
that was the pre-chorus. So now we got the chorus as well, because you go into the chorus and it's kind of has more of this on beat kind of feel. The strings and drums also following suit, and it kind of had more of like with the strings, both the guitar and the bass, kind of like a choked up, a little distortion feel to it in my mind. And I actually like this because it was rather simplistic to maintain that, again, that singular feel that the message had of the song, but it was also concentrated. It was hooky and fun at the exact same time as well. And you're not going to go super duper crazy here on this one, but it was a great move again to just really flow the energy all the way through and really focus in again, that singular like focus on the song. It just all flowed through from one spot to the next with all different styles from verse to pre-chorus to chorus on this one.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. We like to do that. And yeah, for choruses, you definitely need to have that like strong beat and kind of rhythm, because that's the pumped up part, the choruses typically.
Oh yeah, because it's usually when you think about it too, it's like, okay, what part of the song do you really remember? I mean, for most people, it's going to be whatever the chorus is, except for like, us, the crazy metalcore people that are here, where all of a sudden we remember people going blah, and whatever the breakdown was.
Yeah.
Which, trust me, I still remember a lot. It's like, okay, well, I don't remember exactly how the song fully goes. What do you remember the most about it? I remember the breakdown. Oh yeah, that thing was awesome.
Or what is that? I mean, different genre, but speaking of drummers, like the Phil Collins.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, well, what do we remember about In the Air Tonight? Do you remember the chorus? Well, kind of, but what's the best part? Of course, the drum kit.
Yeah.
Or I'm trying to think of another good example as well. Or Day to Remember with Mr. Highways, because it's like, I don't even remember what the chorus really fully is, but I remember how they go into the breakdown with disrespect your surroundings.
Nice.
Again, it can, like, those things can be like the most standout things, but standard wise and just kind of how almost a lot of people really take a look at it, of course, the chorus is going to be the big thing. And when it came to In for Blood, yeah, they kind of did have that feel as well. Again, that's not a bad thing. It's just a thing where, you listen to it, again, it's kind of that full transfer energy. And of course, the chorus is going to be the payoff of that every single step of the way. Yeah. So it did work out as well. And then, of course, you go through it again, second verse, pre-chorus, chorus. Then you get to the bridge, and you built up with that same guitar distortion you had in the chorus, but the drums here playing a lot more of this like march style here with the drum roll, especially on the snare. And again, focusing on building that energy right here. And I loved how that drum roll really did that, because it stands out and going into like this more, instrumental breakdown overall, kind of how it builds up to that amplification of it. Just always how the drum roll has always been. And again, like I said, when I was like younger, between like 10 and 14, I've tried playing drums. I was pretty okay at it. Not gonna say pretty good. I'm gonna say pretty okay at it.
Good enough.
But it worked. But again, so I kind of I always liked how the drum roll was kind of like gonna amplify the energy with that, because it's just whatever it might have been, whether it's like the marching drum roll or like
yeah, totally, yeah.
Really hard drum roll,
I love
whatever
those.
it was.
I love that kind of vibe and feel that those add.
Oh, absolutely. Then you get to more of that instrumental breakdown, and you guys really focus in on more of this like melodic hard rock style with some of those grunge tones, especially on the guitar and the bass, and the drums playing slower and slowly filling out each measure. And again,
she's really getting on the cymbals on that part.
Oh yeah,
it's like da 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 da. Yeah.
And this is where I was interested with it, because that transfer energy with this different overall sound really works out here as well because it's slower, but the heaviness that really has the whole entire overall feel of it really contains all the energy that we need. So we're not losing really any energy. We're not gaining any energy. It's being built up to us in the bridge, and then we're continually having that, even though it's more melodic, it's heavier. It's just, again, just the way those drums hit at the exact time as well. Slower, but also filling out each measure of the breakdown. Ooh, man, was this good.
Yeah, we're breaking it down. Yeah.
And even in as you outro the song as well, you kind of brought back that style. Again, strings have more of that grunge sound to them. And this is good as well because it wraps up the song very well. And it kind of closes out with a drum fill. As always, something like the drum kid in me always was a sucker for, with that little drum fill to just close out the song. But it really had this just great flow through it overall with different parts and each part staying out the exact same time as well. That's pretty hard to do where all of a sudden it's like the verse, the pre-chorus, the chorus, the bridge, everything is going to have this completely different feel to it, but everything just flows nicely through. And it just, again, that transfer energy is really what is key here.
Cool. We like it too. Thank you.
I'll say if Meta was here, because I also have a whole thing on the vocals as well. I'd be interested to see how that would turn out, because there's been times I've done that. It's like, all right, let's see what you have to say there, Kev. I'm just like,
oh, right.
All right, I hope you guys like what I say, but
well, I'm liking what you're saying so far.
But already I can go into the vocals.
Talk to me about the songs you like.
Well, we'll go into the vocals as well, because I remember the song. I remember listening to it, so I'm pretty sure I didn't go too, like, oh my God, this is the worst thing. No, there's no way I did that, because in the verses, vocals, more this elongated alt-rock sound that really doesn't follow along with the pattern the instrumentals are really creating. But I actually really liked this because it gives a different feel to it, and it's kind of like slightly disorienting at the same time too. And you're really going against that more concentrated style with Meta's vocals on the theme. However, the contrast does really bring you more into the song, so it kind of has this like peak interest feel overall. It's how, you're working off that contrast, really make sure both sides amplify themselves. This is where it was done really well.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you on her behalf. She's got a really beautiful vocal tone. And yeah, I think you're right. It does balance well. It doesn't blend. It's because it's distinctive, but it balances it.
Oh, absolutely. And then the pre-chorus, you get more of this lighter sound, the vocals, then being a little bit more volume filled, a little more loud at the end compared to the verses. And this is really where they work well to build that energy up with the building instrumentals from the drumming to keep that when the instrumentals really drop off as well, because when the instrumentals drop off, is more of this chant style from all three of you at the same time here, but it adds more power to the song overall going to that chorus. So again, when that just full on break in the pre-chorus happens and your vocals just continue to carry that over, again, that's where that transfer of energy really fills in right here.
Yeah. I think that I don't remember if there's harmonies up until that point. There may have been, but yeah, that's also, the harmonies kind of come in. Mm-hmm. And that's another part of the build. Yeah.
Just a whole nother part of the build, and it just all comes back into the chorus. And then in the chorus, for the first two choruses, the vocals really were on point with the pacing instrumentals and really focus on this little bit of a slightly lower tone. And it helps make this the hook of the song, and it makes it sound even better in my mind when it's contrasting against that chanting feel of the pre-chorus. So it's we're in this more vocal tone, all of a sudden then it's getting back to that more concentrated feel and really on point what the chorus is doing. Creates this full-on hook, but then again, like I was saying with the overall meaning of the song, again, keeps it more of that all-in, singular focus kind of mindset as well. So it did work out here. Plus, in the last chorus, when the vocals, they're in a different key, a higher key, and it wrapped up the song nicely to create the hook right here at the end. So you're getting something completely different at the same time. That key change was a big move, and it worked out well.
Cool. Yay.
And the other part that had the vocals in it was the bridge, because they were much more melodic. It was a nice touch as well.
Oh, she does sing. Yeah. I tuned so much into what Katie or McQueen and I are doing, that, yeah,
Yeah, and it was a nice touch because they contrasted so well against that drum roll here to really maximize, again, just focusing on, again, what the drums are doing and also what the vocals are doing at the same time as well. But then with a little bit of this louder and rougher tone. And again, all here for it because it takes in that heavy-hitting melodic chorus incredibly well. So again,
because she's doing hush little baby, don't you cry, and then girl. And that's when we go to the breakdown.
It's like, hush, little baby, don't you cry, because if you do, I'm gonna smash this.
Basically, yeah.
All right, I think I got the bridge to the song I'm gonna create just off of that. So, woohoo! There we go. But again, I'm going to wrap this song up overall because I always do a nice, I got the meaning, the instrumentals, the vocals breakdown. I always got to put it all together in overall to make sure we really show it off here. And overall, the best way to describe this song for me is a song that creates this certain feel as it goes on to really narrow your mind and to focus on that singular mindset about what you want. And it does really match well with when the instrumentals come in. Ooh, there goes your...
sorry. If I was going down on low power.
Oh, it happens. But the chorus is rather hooky with that more like pop inspiration. So that does make a lot of sense and make the song stand out here. However, the biggest key here is when you go from each piece of the song that the energy, again, I kept saying it was transferred. Again, as I thought it properly transferred from one part to the next. This is a great move overall, and it really makes the song feel like a winner for anyone who listens to it, regardless if they like any kind of pop rock. Whatever you guys like, doesn't matter. This is a big win. I think you're going to like it.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's me going through 2.5 pages worth of notes. But yeah, and I always like doing that because I always like to see what the band's reaction is, or whoever wrote the song, whatever their reaction is off of it, because it's always interesting to see what happens.
I'm honored that you spent so much time and thought on that. Appreciate it. It's usually that you don't hear people, you don't get to hear that kind of analysis very often.
And that's what's going to set me apart from the rest. Woo!
Yes, absolutely.
But as we kind of because we wrapped up the song as well, I know you said that there was that 10-minute song that you had. Again, not 10 minutes long, the song that was made in 10 minutes on a brand new record coming up sometime soon. I don't remember if I saw that there's a release date on there. If there is a release date yet, awesome. If there isn't, and you can't tell me, please don't tell me.
Okay. Yeah, there's not, we're thinking like fall, winter. What you do when you're releasing a record is you try to tie it to a tour. And of course that's all kind of on pause at the moment, but not for much longer. I mean, they're going to start booking things out. And once we kind of get that figured out, then we'll do a release date, but we're pretty optimistic that it'll be like fall this year. Just right around the corner. I know it's still winter, but it'll be here before we know it.
I'm still hoping, because it's been, at the day that we're shooting this, it has been officially 1 year since the last big concert I've gone to. I've been to a couple others during this time, but all very, very small. But the last big one I went to, I need these concerts. They're just like that time where, I don't know, it's like a home away from home. It's like, no matter what's going on in the world, whatever's stressing me out, and I've been dealing with a crazy amount of stress lately, that was always my thing where I go there. Everything, all the crap, all the way gone. And yes, I probably got knocked on my ass a good amount of times, but it was worth it.
That's what you went there for.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do go there for. To forget everything and to potentially get hurt. But I'm hoping that, concerts return sometime soon. Because I still remember back when this whole entire thing started. They're talking about, this might not be returned till fall. I'm like, okay, of 2021. Oh, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's already getting to be like February, March of this year, of 2021. So can we get them coming here now?
Yeah. The big ones is going to take longer, but little shows, as soon as the weather gets nice, people can have outdoor shows, I'm sure. And then as more people get vaccinated and this and that, then it'll start to come together.
Well, with the outdoor shows, I think, because I know right now there are certain states that are having shows as well. It's with the outdoor shows, I mean, there's going to be more places that are going to have them, but it's going to be dependent upon basically what part of the country you're in and where you live.
Yeah, for sure.
Because with the Dead, you're based out of Nashville, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, then with how big the music scene is down there, I'm not talking just, rock, I'm talking just music in general.
Mm-hmm.
Outdoor music, being able to play, I would assume you'd have a great opportunity to be able to play outdoors.
There's gonna be lots of opportunities. I'm starting to see stuff already getting booked, and I'm sure this summer there's gonna be plenty of shows.
See, that's what I'm hoping for. But up here in Wisconsin, I've got no idea what to even expect, because I just haven't heard from anybody that is trying to book shows around here. So
yeah, it's funny. I can't say that I have either, although I have seen a couple, and these are just like more friends and bands that I see. They're like, we have a show coming up and, or in April or something, but I don't see why not. Like, I think, in the fall of this year, we were able to do that. I went to a friend, Lauren Strange. She had her CD release, and I went to that. And I think there was like limited invitations or whatever she did. And they had some chairs. Of course, it was a rock show, but everybody wore their masks and they understood, to kind of stay distant from people that they don't live with already or aren't in their pods. And people sort of just all, there was maybe 50 people there. That sounds like a lot. But either way, small shows like that can happen.
Yeah, and I know places like Texas and Florida have been having shows like that indoors even, so even probably bigger than that, like a couple hundred people. So I know it's definitely possible, but it's just...
Yeah. I think it's hardest for rock. I was just having a conversation about this recently where I think our genre in particular makes it even harder because part of the fun is the stuff that you've been talking about this whole time. You go to the show and you mosh and you get together and the sweat and the elbows and all that stuff. And you want to get as close as possible, just because it's louder, also so you can see and see all the musicians and get your best pictures and videos. Where some genres are fine, almost being like window dressing or something, even though they may be excellent, but it could also just be, you can take a singer-songwriter, a guy in a guitar, put him in the corner, and everybody's not trying to rush that person and like jump up and down and stuff, they're content to sit back kind of far away from the stage, distance from each other, and you still kind of enjoy that ambiance. But that's not how it goes with the rock show.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you 100% on that because there's certain genres. And I'll use, I'm trying to think of a good example, like folk music in a way. You're going to listen to folk music. A lot of people, you're going to end up just be sitting down at like a table or just in chairs, like kind of, you could be secluded away from a couple different people. You could just be in a small group and just really enjoy the music and really take it in for what it's worth there. When it comes to rock and metal, it's just, the part of it is just with how heavy and how hot it comes in and just how intense it is. That energy is built up and you can't sit down and just enjoy that. You got to let loose, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Then that's what makes it a little harder for rock, but we'll figure it out. And then, then eventually it'll be completely behind us and these will be memories.
Oh, absolutely. And I do have to, because you brought this up with with a potential album release again, looking at fall, winter, so like towards the end of the year for 2021 as well. And hopefully at that point with enough people vaccinated with number of cases, hospitalizations. I know right now hospitalization cases are really going down, but make sure, the vaccination point is there so that we can prevent the worst of the worst from COVID-19 of really taking hold on people. So live shows can come back and we go back the way that we love them to be. With all that being said, because again, it'll be like a year and a half at that point where bands that are on your level, even bigger level than that as well, are going to be able to go out and tour again. Yeah. And there's going to be so much demand from bands and different artists to tour, to go to these venues. Of course, as fans, I'm going to be loving this because I could potentially see a show every single night if I felt like it.
Yeah, however, that's what it'll be like.
However, from your standpoint, being as a band, this is always a question I have to ask, and it just always interests me because what's your plan as a band in order to make sure that when it comes to getting the time that you want on stage and getting on the, potentially on the tours that you want to get on, how are you going to, what's the game plan to make that happen?
Well, there's some networking. I guess how we've gotten almost all of our tours, or pretty much all of our tours is networking. And it's like with the bands themselves. We have a booking agent that submits us for tours. And so it's relationships with ourselves, with our management, and even, some of that is just staying in touch via social media with some of the bands that we have played with before. And then, some other random opportunity might drop out of the sky. So there's a little bit of a plan, but nothing that pointed or that specific, because you never know. We don't even know what bands are going on tour, so we don't know who to bug yet about taking us out with them.
Totally understandable, but I'll say it's the biggest reason I always ask is because when it comes to just like when I went to school, I studied economics. So I'm always big about like supply demand. I'm like, I know there's going to be so many bands that are going to want to tour after this because everyone's been sitting around for a year and a half at this point. Fans, we're going to want to go and see as many shows as possible. However, because of the pandemic and because of the lack of support that these venues were able to have, there's a good amount of these venues that have had to shut down. So the supply of stages is going to be even more limited than it was beforehand. So it's just with all the demand from bands and fans trying to get to shows and the amount of stages that we have, it's just, I want to make sure that every band has the opportunity that to be able to, get on stage, be able to get their time and be able to have people see them live for the first time in almost in 2 years
I think
at that
we'll
point.
start to see, bills. Like, I mean, you would see like festivals and stuff, but I think bills, instead of the standard being 3, you might start seeing a lot more of like 4 and 5 band bills. I mean, which already existed, but it just might be more frequent.
I'd be down for that, because all of a sudden it'd be like, going to see a show and it's like, okay, show starts at 6 and show ends at midnight and I'm just having a great time for 6 hours.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good time to me, because I've seen that happen. Yeah, I've seen that happen like one time back in 2019 where it was like, okay, go to a show. It's like, okay, it's 6 a.m. Okay, or 6 p.m. All right, first band goes on. They were on for like 20 minutes. Second band goes on. They're on for like a half hour. The changeover was real quick, which was really nice. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, now here comes Light the Torch. I'm like, oh, shoot, I can see Howard Jones. This is great. And here comes Fit for a King. Alrighty, this is great. Let's see what is going to happen at the end of this. And I got 2 whole hours of Ice Nine Kills. And it was...
What a night.
I went from, I'll put it this way, that show, I went from not really knowing who Ice Nine Kills was to all of a sudden I'm like, I must listen to this forever now.
Super fan. Yeah. Awesome.
That's the power. That's the power of concerts, though, and that's why we need to have them, because for bands that are really trying to they're bands that are really working their way up right now, those shows can take people from not knowing who you are to all of a sudden being like, I have to listen to everything they came out with, because I'm just inspired. I'm just really into this band right now. Then all of a sudden they listen to it, they really get into it, and they start telling all their friends about it. And next thing you know, this band starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're on, even though making these national runs. And now these people that were in there for the shows back when, you were open up for somebody, they can look and say, hey guys,
I saw it.
Hey guys, I got you into them. Yeah, I was there before they were big. That's bragging rights right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real thing too.
It kind of is, and I kind of fall a little bit into that as well, because I always like to tell my friends, like, hey, check out this, check out this, check out this, check out this. But again, I'm just so into this stuff right now. I love just being like, hey, you like this? Hey, check out this, and just see what happens, and just constantly just throw them new stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the fun of it. That's another one of the smaller things, but just a rock show. There's nothing else like it.
No, it's there's nothing else like it. There is a family vibe there that's so hard to be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
Not even my own family can replace that one.
Yeah. Especially with your local scene. And it sounds like you probably know, like, a lot of your friends also go to shows, and yeah, that's part of it.
That is actually something that would surprise you, where when I go to shows, I go there alone. And because most of my friends that I'm close with, hang out with, a lot of the ones that would like the same kind of music I do, they don't live near me. So when I go to shows, I'm always kind of by myself. But the people I meet at the shows, I meet people all the time. And there's people I see at every single show.
Yeah, exactly.
I have absolutely no idea what their names are. I know their faces, and I'm always happy to see them every single time.
Yeah, I know our fans are that way. They know each other from our shows, and then I see them, I stalk them on social media. So then they go, and they don't, sometimes they will like meet up and like ask each other, are you going to this show? But a lot of times they're just comfortable knowing that they can just go to a show by themselves and they'll know somebody else there.
And it's not only that, but even if you go to a show and you don't know somebody that's there, this is always one thing that I thought about ever since I started going to shows alone. And it's something that everyone, I think, even especially as someone in a band that has seen this, you can attest this as well, where people go to shows. If they go alone, yeah, you're not going to know anyone there potentially. However, you go there and everyone is there for a specific reason. And they're all there to see the same band you are. They may relate to the band in a completely different way than you do. You may have this completely different experience, but the key is you all have a positive experience with that band. And
Absolutely.
that band has a positive experience with you, the fans, as well. So everyone's happy. It's one big happy family at that point. It doesn't matter where you came from, what you believe in, who you are. It doesn't matter. All that matters is you all connect positively with that same band. So you're gonna have fun.
Yep.
And then you can, and then you potentially meet some crazy people who are like, hey, can you just like help us crowd surf a bunch of people? And you're just like, yeah, okay, why not?
Of course.
Then you have to crowd surf. Then you have to help hold up like the 250-pound guy that's trying to crowd surf, and you're like, come on, help people, please.
That does take more than one.
It takes a crowd. I'll put it. It's like it takes a village. No, it takes a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully we can return to that again. Hopefully, I'm hoping sooner than fall of 2021. But if I'll put it this way, if someone would tell me it's guaranteed that all these live shows are going to come back fall 2021, or it could potentially come back in summer, but it might come back in spring of 2022. I'm like, no, I'm taking the guarantee fall 2021. Like, if I can guarantee live shows come back, I am taking that.
Yes, me too. And just, be done with it. Put it behind us.
And then my bank account will officially go to sad mode because of all the money I'm going to be spending on live shows.
Start saving now.
Oh, I've been saving for a year at this point.
Right.
I'll probably blow through it in like 4 months because all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, this band's coming here. This band's coming here. This band's going to be in Chicago that I want to go see. Okay, I'll take the drive.
Bad. Yeah,
this band's over in Madison, Wisconsin. I'll go hang out with my brother before the show. And then all of a sudden show comes on. Hey, I'm going to go over there.
Mm-hmm.
And then have horrible injuries potentially. But you know what? It's all part of the fun. And hopefully when live shows come back, hopefully again, guarantee fall of 2021, the Deadheads are able to go on tour, either headlining as an opener, whatever it might be, tour around the country.
A mix.
Yeah, hopefully whatever it might be, tour around the country, and hopefully, for my sake, come somewhere near me, whether it's here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, over our state capital, Madison, Wisconsin, or even just in a major city south of the Wisconsin-Illinois border in Chicago, Illinois, because all super easy for me to get to.
Cool. Well, we should. I mean, we love playing the rave, and so I really hope to get back there. But one of our biggest fans, his name is Dish. He's in Madison. I think he's still in Madison. He also travels a lot, but he's a Wisconsin boy, and actually, and his brother Luke. So we have to get back to Madison. We have to get back up there.
Well, if you play in any of those three cities, whether it's Milwaukee, Madison, or Chicago, or if it happens where I can swing it and go up to Minneapolis, because that's where I went to school, so I still know a lot of people up there. I have gone to show. I have traveled 4.5 hours from Milwaukee to Minneapolis. I know it's supposed to be longer than that, but
is it called the Myth? Is it the Myth that's in Minneapolis?
Shoot, I'm trying to think.
Or there's a place, maybe an Orbit Room, also maybe. No, I think that's in Grand Rapids.
I know, I'm trying to think. Because when I was in Minnesota, I didn't have time to go to many shows because, school, money, that kind of stuff.
Well, there's a place we have played in Minneapolis, and it was either called the Wish or a Myth. I can see the big M, or it might be a big W.
Maybe when live shows return, you will make your way back up there, and then you can figure out if it's the Wish or the Myth, or if it's something completely different.
I remember that show for other reasons, but we sold a lot of tank tops, and it was cold, and it was Minneapolis, and we sold so many tank tops. We almost didn't put them out, but yeah, we sold a ton of them. Well,
when you go back next time, remember, it doesn't matter if it's cold or warm. Make sure you pull up the tank tops for people in the northern Midwest, because
they don't care.
Oh, they'll buy them. But yeah, if you make your way to Madison, either to the I'm trying to think, because the Sylvie's one of the venues. I always like going to that one. I can't think of the name of the other one off the top of my head. Or if you come to Milwaukee and show up at the rave, that's pretty much where I go to almost every single show I can. Or if you go down to Chicago, again, anywhere there. I mean, for me to get anywhere within that vicinity, hour to an hour and a half, unless you come to the rave, then it's like a 5-minute drive for me. So that's a lot nicer.
Well, we'll shoot for the rave then.
Awesome. And then, because this is always something I like to do as I close this out, and it's always when I have an incredible time, enjoyable time on the podcast, which is pretty much every single time. So this list is very long, but I plan on making good on this list every single time.
All right.
So here's the caveat with the list. The list, I call it, is the First Rounds on Me Club. So what that entails is This isn't an if. This is a when. I get to see the Dead Deads live for the first time. That's it. First round's on me.
Okay. Cheers.
Yep, exactly. So that's all. Because then it kind of like I'd like to actually meet you in person. Say like, hey, like heading on the podcast this is awesome. Actually, but of course, I'll be at the show again. You'll see the giant red X over my eyes again. If I'm actually dead, I'll tell them to like put the gurney next to the bar. So that all of a sudden, afterwards, it's like, okay, here's my card. Get me lay on the gurney. Yeah, just take the card. But there's sometimes
I agree. First round's on you.
There are sometimes I've had to change it around where there's some certain bands I've talked to that have not hit the age of 21 at this point. So there are some, or even some bands that where members just they don't drink at all. So I'm like, okay, got to turn this around. I have first I have custards on me. I have pizzas on me. Like I've got a lot of it. So I mean, this is where
drinks work for us.
Exactly. That's why I was like, woo, because drinks work for me too. So again. When I can see the Dead Deads for the time, hopefully again, Milwaukee. But if it's Madison, Chicago, or if for some random reason you're in some other part of the country and I happen to be there at the exact same time and I see the Dead Deads are playing, yeah, you'll see the red X's on the eyes because gotta be red X's. You'll probably see either like a black shirt, black hat, whatever it might be. It's like, and you might see just me just like pass, like completely like knocked down in mosh pit. It's like, okay, wait a minute. There's some definitely person knocked down there. Oh, wait, it's just Kevin. He's good. He's fine. Keep playing. We're good. Someone will pick him up.
Will do.
Awesome. But Daisy, as we close this out, one thing I always like to do as we end this is I like to give you a chance to say whatever you want at the end of it, plug whatever you want to plug, whatever it might be to everybody. So the floor is yours.
All right. Well, we have a new single coming out March 5th and a new video going along with it. And for our longtime fans, it's a song that we've actually put out before, but we recorded it and we didn't technically remix it like that kind of remix, but there's some new elements to it and a sassy new video to go along with it. So that'll be fun. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple, Google, all the places that you stream music. And the video will be on YouTube. And then right now we've got a single out called Hey Girlfriend, which is actually a duet with a girl named Julia Lauren, who's awesome. A band called the Foxies here in Nashville. And they're really cute and everything. And I guess that's pretty much it. Follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as The Dead Deads. I guess that's about it.
Alrighty, then it is my turn to officially close this out. So, as everyone, if you've listened to this before, you know this. If you haven't listened before, then you'll figure this out right now. Again, like I said econ in college, so I know certain things about, what's the correct word? Convenience, yes. So when it comes to finding the Dead Deads on social media, on Spotify, on YouTube, on Apple Music, their website, find their merch, whatever it might be, you're not going to have to go and search Google for it. You just have to take a look at the description of the podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Podcast, Google Play, iHeart Radio. You're going to see this thing that says, find the Dead Deads online. You're going to see the labels and then the links after them. You just have to click on the links.
I saw that you did that. That's really cool.
Yeah,
I found you that way.
Yes!
Yeah.
Alrighty, yeah, because then I got mine underneath as well. So again, when it comes to finding anything you need to know about the Dead Deads or anything you know about me with MSOD Rocks and the Chord Progression Podcast, boom, that's where it is. Again, description, make it as easy as possible. And then also keep up with the Dead Deads as well, because you're going to want to check out that brand new single that comes out on March 5th. Even though I think that when this podcast comes out, March 5th will have passed. So check it out now.
It's out now.
And let's see what else. And as the last two things, one, always remember, Daisy, first round's on me.
First round's on you.
And as we close this out, then because first round's on me, I cannot end this podcast in good conscience by saying goodbye, because that feels like that's the end of it. Finale, bing, bang, boom, done. And that ain't the case because, again, first round's on me. So I have to end with, see you later.
All right. Happy trails.
Well, folks, that was my interview with Daisy from the Dead Deads. They're out of Nashville, Tennessee. They got a brand new record coming out sometime, hopefully 2021. Looks like fall. The Deal With Me single is out. It has been out since March 5th. So please, please, please go check that out. Go check out the Dead Deads again. All links to their social media, along with MSOD Rocks and the Chord Progression Podcast as well, in the description below if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening to Spotify, Podcast, Google Play, iHeart Radio. And yes, get into the Dead Deads. But on that note, that's That's me for you today, guys. Thank you for watching and listening to the Chord Progression Podcast with City Rocks, where rock and metal thrive. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one of these episodes with a big, healthy, and hearty. See ya! Yeah!